When Prince Harry walked onto the set of the morning show that day, adjusting his tailored jacket and offering that familiar blend of humble confidence and polished charm, he expected the interview to go the same way they always did, with soft questions, sympathetic tones, and a chance to once again share his truth on his terms. But what he did not know, could not have predicted, and would never forget, was that this time, sitting across from him was Savannah Guthrie, a seasoned journalist, with years of experience digging past the surface, a woman who had interviewed presidents and survivors, celebrities and whistleblowers, and who wasn't about to be swept up in royal fanfare or distracted by titles and history. Because Savannah, known for her calm voice, razor-sharp focus, and refusal to be intimidated by fame, was ready with notes, facts, and a quiet fire burning behind her eyes that told everyone in the control room that today's segment would not go the way Harry had planned. And from the very first question, things felt different. Savannah didn't start with compliments or icebreakers. She opened with context, reminding viewers that Prince Harry had just released another book, made another series of statements about his family, and appeared in yet another documentary dissecting the very institutions he once defended. And with a tilt of her head and a subtle narrowing of her eyes, she asked the first sharp-edged question: how do you reconcile your desire for privacy with your consistent decision to share so much, so publicly? And Harry blinked, slightly taken aback, trying to recover quickly with a soft chuckle and a line about being misunderstood, about controlling his own narrative. But Savannah didn't smile, didn't nod, didn't offer him an easy out instead. She calmly repeated the core of the question, pressing again on the contradiction. And Harry's body language shifted, his shoulders tightened, and for a moment, the room felt smaller, the lights brighter, because for the first time in a long time, the Duke of Sussex wasn't holding the wheel, wasn't speaking in front of a hand-picked interviewer who agreed not to ask tough questions. And as he tried to pivot, talking about trauma, about being hounded, about the need to protect his wife and children, Savannah listened intently, then leaned in just slightly and asked, "But haven't you also willingly stepped into the spotlight at times that served your brand?" And that was the moment the room shifted again, because Harry, so used to delivering practiced lines about victimhood and vindication, suddenly had to face the reality that his narrative wasn't airtight, that not everyone believed he was simply trying to live a quiet life. And the interview, just minutes in, had already become something more, something raw and unscripted. As Savannah moved from media contradictions to family claims, asking why Harry felt justified in revealing private conversations with his brother and father, details that had once belonged only to them, and she asked it not with venom, not with aggression, but with professional calm. And that made it land harder, because she wasn't attacking, she was questioning, and she had done her homework, referencing specific passages, quoting his own words, challenging him to explain the fairness of sharing one side of private disputes without allowing the other side to speak. And Harry began to fumble, trying to reframe his choices as part of a healing process. But Savannah didn't flinch, asking him how he defined healing when so many of his revelations caused harm. And with each new question, Harry grew more visibly uncomfortable, his usual rhythm disrupted, his guard rising, his charm dimming. Because Savannah was doing what journalists are supposed to do, asking real questions, demanding real answers, and refusing to let the glow of celebrity drown out the responsibility of public discourse. And as the interview continued, she asked about the Netflix deals, the podcast episodes, the appearances that seemed more like branding exercises than truth-telling. And she asked whether Harry saw any conflict in speaking against institutions while profiting from their exposure. And again, his answers grew vague, his voice softer, his phrases more like fog than light. And Savannah pressed again. "Do you think there's any moment where silence might speak louder than exposure?" And the pause that followed said everything, because Harry, cornered by truth, blinked twice and looked down for a moment, then gave a careful, rehearsed answer that didn't address the heart of her question. And in that moment, you could feel it, the slow, cold realization that this wasn't going to be a safe space for a prepackaged message, that Savannah wasn't going to back down or soften the questions to protect her guest. And then came the moment that would be replayed for days, the viral clip that burned through social media and landed in headlines around the world, when Savannah, after another vague answer from Harry about protecting his mental health, calmly said, "I respect the pain you've gone through, I do, but do you understand that pain doesn't give anyone a blank check to rewrite other people's stories?" And the air was sucked out of the room, because in that one question, Savannah cut through every excuse, every sidestep, every gentle justification Harry had leaned on, and put the entire conversation on a different level, one where accountability mattered more than sympathy, one where honesty wasn't filtered through PR or royal trauma, but stood alone, raw and unprotected. And Harry, stunned, tried to respond, but the words came slower now, the control slipping further. And by the time the segment ended, it was clear to anyone watching that this had not been a win for the prince, it had been a reckoning. Not because Savannah was cruel, but because she was clear, not because she ambushed him, but because she came prepared. And the world watched it all happen live, and within hours, The moment had become legend, a rare, unscripted, fiery clash between power and truth, between entitlement and integrity, between comfort and courage. And in the days that followed, as fans, critics, and commentators debated who was right, who was wrong, who was brave, who was exposed, one thing became clear. Savannah Guthrie had reminded everyone what journalism is supposed to look like, and Prince Harry, whether he knew it or not, had reminded us what happens when carefully guarded images meet unflinching questions. And no matter which side people stood on afterward, the impact was undeniable. The fiery clash between Savannah Guthrie and Prince Harry had become the kind of cultural moment that forces people to think harder, ask deeper, and wonder if the people they idolize are really telling the whole truth after all.